I've got this fantastic idea. No one else has done this so far. I should totally do this. I need to launch my own startup. Okay, now what? How? Where do I even begin? Welcome to Prepco's video on how to startup. Let's say you've identified a big gap in the market. You've got an idea. How do you even go about building this idea into a company? How will you raise money? Should you raise money? Let's get straight into it. To find answers to all these questions and more, we spoke to Ishwar Sundararaman, the founder of 4 startups, most recently unsolved.network, a place to build your own private, professional communities online. In today's video, we'll look specifically at the first step, how to figure out if your idea has merit and how to validate it. How can you be sure that customers will be willing to spend their money on your product once you build it? Paul Graham, the founder of Y Combinator, which is arguably the world's most famous startup accelerator, says that the way to get startup ideas is not to try to think of startup ideas. It's to look for problems, preferably problems you've experienced yourself. Ishwar agrees.
I would classify ideas in 2 ways, ones that I've experienced and ones that I've observed. So experienced is I've had the problem myself, or I worked in a company where there was this specific problem which was taking a really long time, and now I have this awesome idea which could solve that problem. Right? So experience, when an idea is born from experience, obviously you have felt the pain yourself, you have searched for solutions yourself, you haven't found a good enough one, and you now think that you have a better solution available, right? So this is something that most people would suggest or ask for. How did you kind of chance upon this idea? Because there are a bunch of people who observe ideas from far and look at a company and say, hey, they should be doing this, but they're not doing this, right? An observed idea typically lacks in-depth insight, right? So because you've not worked in the space, right, you haven't really done enough due diligence on the idea, it lacks. I'm not saying it can't happen, right? But it's just much easier if you face the problem yourself and therefore you know that this problem exists, versus saying, hey, this company is not doing this, so therefore I will launch a company that does this, right? When you do an observed idea, I think I found more observed ideas fail because they actually underestimate that the people who are running companies in this space are also reasonably intelligent. They should have thought of this, right? So they assume dumbness, on existing players, which is normally not true. They've either attempted something and it's failed, or they have it on their roadmap but it's not important enough.
Now, once you've pinned down the problem that you're trying to solve, it's time to find out who else might be trying to solve it. These could be your customers. And you need to know the right way to approach them and the right questions to ask.
I mean, so the second you say, do you have this problem? They'll say yes. Oh, what if I did this? So a lot of people attempt this futuristic solution presentation to customers. What if I did this, right? Would that be great, right? And most times customers will answer, yeah, that would be great. And then the entrepreneur is super kicked and excited. Oh man, I'm on to something, right? I've been validated and all of that. So when it's a real problem, that means that pain is so high that the person is using something else to solve that problem. If you go to a customer and say, is this a problem? And the next question you ask is, how do you solve it today? And he's like, no, I haven't really solved it. There's no solution. I don't know. Right? Then it's not a problem that's painful enough. Like, should you pick it up and then present a solution? Maybe you could. Even then, it'll probably just fizzle out because there's no motivation on the other side to find or adopt a solution. You also want to add a layer of are you paying for this solution today in any way, right? So if you're using an existing solution, how much are you paying for it? Is it free, right? So if it is an existing solution, if they're paying for it, then yeah, sure, they're very motivated, they're trying to solve the problem. And if you genuinely have a better solution, now that's a completely next step, right? So first is real problem, then having a better solution. Well, most of the access that you have are people that you know, right? So therefore, when you talk to them, they may just sugarcoat as well. The true test of whether you have validation is by saying, I have this solution. Are you willing to sign up? Are you willing to pay?
Now it's time to define your MVP, your minimum viable product. Think of this as the most basic version of your product or service that you can offer to your potential customers and that they might be willing to pay for. This could be a basic website, a landing page where you collect information and then contact them with solutions, or even a single page with a video that describes what you're going to do. MVPs are important because you want to generate some interest in your product without actually spending 20 lakhs getting a very fancy website built by a marketing agency that is very happy to tell you that your idea is great. Well, because you're giving them 20 lakhs worth of business. This was Facebook's MVP. This was Airbnb's. If you're solving a customer's problem, he's going to ignore the interface in the beginning.
The easiest way to validate an idea is actually to create a website. And honestly, in today's day and age, anyone can create a website. So you don't have to know how to even code, right? So you create a website, you say that this is what I'm going to do, this is how I'm going to solve. Basically, you're selling before building, right? So you sell whatever you think your ideal website looks like. Sell that concept. And then just ask people, are you willing to join the waitlist, for example? Or are you willing to be an early user? Do you want to test this out, right? Or there are even people who have tested out by putting a fake payment page, right? So there's something called a validator app. I'm not sure of the exact one, but it allows you to put a fake payment page. And all it says when someone enters, let's say, I'm willing to pay, buy now, right? And when it says that, it asks them first, give me your email address, and then it says we'll contact you when we're ready to launch. But otherwise, everything else gives you the impression that this product is ready to buy, right? And that's a really, really good way to really validate what you're doing by, just going out there and selling.
So you've gone ahead and gotten a lot of feedback from your potential customers. Now, based on this feedback, you might want to tweak your product or service just a little bit, or you might want to pivot in a completely different direction. A pivot is something that many startups do. If you're not seeing interest from your potential customers, or if they seem unwilling to pay what you need to make your company a success, it might be time to try something different. Or you might realize that you just should be focusing on one specific industry or one specific feature. True story, YouTube was originally a dating site where you could upload your video profile. The popular photo sharing site Flickr started out as an online game where you would travel along a map and buy and sell items. One feature of this game was the ability to share photos with other players. The founder realized that this feature was so popular that he decided to pivot and launch Flickr. And probably one of the oldest pivots, Nokia was a Finnish paper mill company in the 19th century. We also spoke to Ishwar about his most recent startup, unsolved.network, how he got the idea, how he developed it, and the reason for his most recent pivot.
Okay, let me just start with unsolved.xyz, right? So after Ferdo, right, started with unsolved.xyz, and I think again it just born from my own problem. I had a bunch of ideas to work on, right? And I wanted collaborators. And I said there's no place where I can go and actually collaborate with people. And then I realized this is probably a common problem for idea stage folks. Then I tried to draw some form of a matrix, right? I mean, like, or let's say a hierarchy saying, I looked at the number of founders that are on LinkedIn who call themselves founder, co-founder, etc. And I found there are 10 million such folks. I assumed that if there are 10 million founders and co-founders, there'll probably be at least 50 million with side projects. Right? I'm doing the job, I've built some form of an MVP, but I can't take the plunge yet because I don't have revenue, right? So let's say a typical 20% ratio, may even be 100 million, right? But I'm just saying, I assume 50 million. And then I said to get to an MVP stage, you will probably need another 5:1 ratio. So either 250 million people probably have ideas. And then the theory really was, will these 250 million people pay a platform which helps them make progress, right? Join a community, join a network, and therefore unsolved.xyz was born, right? So we said we're going to help early stage entrepreneurs make progress, and hopefully they will pay us something every month, and the market seems large enough. I think one of our big learnings was that founders will go to any community where they can get help, right? So there is no one founders network. They will go to any community which is hosted. If tomorrow Axel says I'll help you, they will join. If someone else says, Techstar says I'll help you, or let's say you say you'll help a person, they'll come to you, right? They will not go to some general network. So entrepreneurs need some focused help. Right? So somewhere there between theory, market size, and community and thinking about it, we kind of, this was our learning at least, that entrepreneurs will just go to places which help them succeed. Now we looked at it as, where are all of these people hosting their communities? And then we looked at tools like Slack, Discord, WhatsApp, Telegram. We also had considered those instead of building our own. And then we said that these tools, why did I reject those platforms? That's when I kind of realized, right? I mean, so I'm actually working on the wrong problem. Right. So, and then I'm like, oh, I chose to build my own platform because I found that those platforms were not suitable for professional networking, because they don't even ask you which company you are in. So Slack will not ask you, WhatsApp will not ask you. You can't find your 256 member group. You have no clue who is in which company or in what position. So we said, can we create that? And kind of looks like LinkedIn, and we felt that, and therefore the positioning kept evolving. I mean, initially we were building this only for entrepreneurs, but the market was too small. Then we added a few more, and then market became slightly larger, but still not interesting enough. Now our positioning is Discord meets LinkedIn, right? And the beauty is, LinkedIn is a $17 billion company. Discord is a $7 billion company. So nobody really has a question on market size. So when you say Discord meets LinkedIn, suddenly you have already made pictures in your head of the Discord-like app. You have made it, so I don't have to explain it for anyone who's been on either of these platforms. And luckily, quite a few have been. Right? And now everything just becomes that much easier. You can go and tell someone, hey, there's this really cool tool called unsolved.network. They'll help you host professional communities. So something like LinkedIn, right? It'll give you something like LinkedIn, but on your own domain.
So that's it for this video on the first steps towards your startup journey. In our coming videos in this series, we'll go through calculating costs and potential revenues, figuring out how and when to raise funding, and just as important, whom to raise it from, and many more steps. Stay tuned, like this video, and subscribe to our channel for updates.